Hi, I'm Mary Bond, and I'd like to talk with you today about bunions. You might wonder, what do bunions have to do with posture? Well, surprisingly, quite a bit. Because when the big toe is distorted by a bunion, the foot can't support the knee, the hip, the pelvis, and the spine the way it's meant to. Plus, when your foot hurts, that of course makes your posture worse as well. So I'd like to tell you a little bit more about bunions and then show you 2 small exercises you can practice to keep yours from getting worse. When we walk, the foot is designed to push off evenly across the first 3 toes. But when the foot isn't working the way it should, the tendency is to begin to push off more across that big toe joint. Little by little, that big toe begins to migrate towards the other toes, and more pressure is put into the metatarsophalangeal joint. The body creates more tissue to support the imbalanced joint, and the bunion just continues to get bigger. You can learn more about feet in general from my DVD, Heal Your Posture. The tendency towards bunions may be genetic. It certainly seems to run in families, but it's definitely aggravated by shoes with a narrow toe box and also by high heels, because that puts a great deal of pressure on that first big toe joint. When the first big toe joint is drawn sideways, there's a tendency for the second big toe joint to curl upwards. That means that the tip of the big toe is not grounded. And that will be the intent of the first exercise that we learn, is to reteach the tip of the big toe what it feels like to feel the ground. Perhaps you can see what I mean if you compare my left big toe here, the way the ball of the big toe is resting into the carpet. This really has some pressure into the carpet. But on the other side, you see this joint is curled up, and this toe seems to be more floating or hovering away from the carpet rather than being grounded. With a person with a severe bunion, this effect would be much greater than what I'm showing you here. The first exercise I'm going to teach you involves strengthening a muscle called flexor hallucis longus. That means the long flexor of the big toe. And it's the one that's responsible for grounding the tip of the toe and keeping it from turning up like that. The muscle starts in your calf underneath the more familiar calf muscles. So it's deep inside your leg. It runs down your leg and then comes down along the inside of your ankle bone, along here. And it runs underneath your foot. There's a little groove for it here. And it goes down along the line of your big toe, and it passes in between these 2 little sesamoid bones and on down along the foot, the toe, to the very tip of the big toe. The tendon going through these sesamoid bones is important because that helps stabilize that big toe joint that we're so concerned with. Now we're ready. We're going to try to activate the flexor hallucis longus muscle. Remember, it comes down along the back of the calf from higher up than I can show you here, and then the muscle runs down behind the ankle and under the arch, down along the line of the big toe, between those 2 sesamoid bones, and then out to the tip of the big toe. The first thing to do is to teach that joint what it's supposed to feel like when that muscle activates it. So remember, this joint likes to go up. It has forgotten how to go down. So if you just take the bone on the end and the bone in the middle, press them together a little bit, and just gently flex the big toe. And focus with your mind on the feeling of that joint being moved. And it's important to notice the distinction between that movement and this one, which is moving the first big toe joint. That one moves fine usually. The problem is it's the second big toe joint that is underactive. Okay, so once you have the feeling, the next step is to try to bend just that joint. So you put your index finger underneath it, give it a little bit of resistance, and then with your other hand you have your hand along the line of the muscle here. So you should be able to feel a little activity right under these fingers as your big toe joint bends the toe. As the flexor hallucis, longus, bends the toe. Now it's possible when you do this that you could get a little cramp under here. That's because that happens often when a muscle has been underactive. So if you do get a cramp, just stop, give it a little kindness, and then try it again. See if you can bend that joint. Now I've been practicing, so this looks kind of easy. But the tendency for many people will be to do this. You see, to bend the first big toe joint. And that's a different muscle. So in order to really bend the second big toe joint, you have to use flexor hallucis longus. You have to get that turned on in your brain. And once you feel like you've got the idea, then see if you can begin to press down into the ground with that toe. And you can stand up and try it. Okay, so that's the first part, is to activate the grounding of the big toe. The second part is to use a second muscle. It runs along the inner arch here. It's called abductor hallucis. And its job is to move the big toe away from the other toes, like this. So you could put something there for your toe to try to reach, and see if you can, feel the muscle here in the arch, and see if you can feel it activate as you try to move your toe towards the pencil. The tendency, if you haven't grounded the toe, you see with flexor hallucis longus, is you'll lift it up like that. So we want to ground the toe and slide it across the carpet. Now I'm beginning to do it, and I can really feel how hard I have to work here in that inner arch. This isn't an easy exercise, and like everything I teach, it's not a quick fix. But if you will practice and be diligent and very patient, you can help yourself prevent your bunion from getting worse and possibly avoid surgery. That would be great.